Today we will be listening to accounting instructor Ray Kowalczyk, and he'll be talking about persistence through thieves, blinds, and crystals. So welcome, Ray, and thank you for your presentation today.
All right, might as well get started. Who read the book? Many of us did, but don't worry, if you didn't, I'm not going to spoil the end for you. Just a few key plot points. So the alchemist. What is alchemy, or what is an alchemist? Any ideas? No one knows what an alchemist is. By definition, an alchemist is someone who practices alchemy. But what's alchemy? Alchemy is a dead science. Back in the day, they used to pick up rocks, and they noticed they crushed certain rocks and heated them up. They would be able to get like certain alloys of metal out. So one day someone decided, let's just crush these rocks up, heat them up, and then this piece of steel came out. Let's crush up some more, add these together, and now they have, refurbished steel. And eventually they realized we can manipulate matter into making all kinds of different elements. So they wondered, is there a way we can mix certain rocks together, certain elements together, in a certain way with certain temperatures to make those elements become gold? Can we turn certain elements into gold, particularly lead? So that science took off, and alchemists went all over the place looking for recipes and ingredients to turn lead into gold. They failed miserably, but they also found all kinds of other elements. And by the 17th and 18th century, we found out that alchemy is no longer a science, but it was replaced by something called chemistry, which we all know and love. That's the true science. But this book takes the quest of a young boy who meets an alchemist, someone who actually practices alchemy, and brings out the best of himself. So to start off, the boy's name is Santiago, and he lives in Spain. He's a shepherd. A shepherd is someone who takes care of a flock of sheep, and that's all he does. He has a flock of sheep, and he just roams around the countryside, lives a wild life, never sleeps in the same place twice, sleeps under the stars, and lives a pretty cozy life. The reason why he became a shepherd was because he wanted to travel, and he's doing just that. He's fulfilling his dream. But eventually one night, he takes a nap, and he has this recurring dream. Children are holding him by the hands, and then suddenly he wakes up and he's in Egypt. And he has this recurring message: go to Egypt, go to the pyramids. You'll find treasure in Egypt if you go to Egypt and visit the pyramids. Wakes up, another night passes, same exact dream. Go to Egypt, go to the pyramids. You'll find treasure if you go to the pyramids. Go to Egypt. Wakes up and says, I got to figure out what this dream means. So what does he do? He goes to a gypsy. And the gypsy says, I'll interpret your dream, but you got to pay me first. I have no money. I'm just a shepherd. I have nothing. I can't pay you. So the gypsy says, tell you what, you've mentioned something about treasure. If you give me 10% of your treasure, I will interpret your dream. If you agree to that, I'll interpret your dream. The boy says, great, that's the perfect deal. If I don't find the treasure, I owe you nothing, and I get a free dream interpretation. If I do, I get to keep 90%. I'm good to go. What is the dream trying to tell me? The dream is trying to tell you, go to Egypt. Now get out of my hut. I've wasted too much time with you. So the boy says, well, all right, I guess I got to go to Egypt. He heads to town to pick up a ticket, and on the way there, he meets an old man. And the old man asks him for a drink of his wine. He's thirsty, so he says, yeah, sure, have a drink of my wine. How about, how you doing? No problem. What's that book you're reading? Oh, it's something I'm trying to read here. It's a small book I'm trying to interpret, but no big deal. The boy's getting annoyed with this old man. Why is he asking all these questions? He's like, you know what, I got stuff to do, so why don't you just let me be? And the old man says, well, if I let you be, you're not going to find the treasure. Well, how do you know about this treasure? And the boy thinks he must be the gypsy's husband. Yeah, he's trying to deceive me. And so the wind blows, and the boy sees underneath the old man's robe a breastplate made of gold. And the boy asks, well, who are you? You have this breastplate of gold. Who are you? He's like, I'm a king, and I'm here to help you fulfill your personal legend. That's what I've been placed here to do, fulfill your personal legend. And if you want, I can interpret your dream for you, but it'll cost you. How much will it cost me? 10% of your sheep. Ooh, well, the gypsy asked me for 10% of my, treasure if I find it. You want 10% of my sheep right now? I'm reluctant, but okay, here's 10% of my sheep. Here's 6. My accounting mind. 10% of my sheep, 6 sheep. He probably had 60 sheep. That's what I'm thinking there. 54 netted. That's what I do. But he gives him 6 sheep, and he tells him, here's what you got to do. Go to Egypt. The boy feels ripped off. It's like, well, what's going on with this one? He's like, well, here's the thing. Gypsies are good at manipulating people. You don't realize this, but you just got ripped off. I'm trying to help you fulfill your personal legend. I have 6 of your sheep, and you're now done with me. But the gypsy, she took 10% of your future. So now when you pursue your goal, you are not as motivated to pursue it because now it's no longer your goal. Bear that one in mind before you go on. Let's just stop right there and take a look at that. If you promise a piece of your future to someone else, you're no longer motivated for your goal, are you? Here's a personal story of mine. High school, what kind of grades did you think that I got? Pretty decent, right? I'm a college instructor right now. I probably did pretty well. But the truth is, I failed every single class, every single one except for gym. I failed every class except for gym. And the reason why is because I had parents that were on my back all the time. Get straight A's, do well in school, do well in school. I had teachers, you got to keep doing the work, do well, and you'll succeed, just keep doing well. I even had peers, you got to do better in class, you got to keep doing better. All this pressure, and I asked my parents, why is it so important that you want me to do so well in school? So you go to college, okay, what's college all about? You go back to school and you do it, so wait a minute. You're telling me that I got to work hard in school right now, and my reward is to go to school again and do more work? I want nothing to do with that. That sounds like a lot of work for nothing. So I gave up the whole thing, just gave it all completely up. Until suddenly, my counselor realized, if Ray doesn't start passing his classes, he's not going to graduate. He's going to be a college dropout. That's not going to be good for anybody. So he called an emergency meeting with me and my parents, and he sat us all down, listened to my piece, listened to my parents' piece, and he said, okay, here's what needs to happen. If Ray doesn't improve, he's not going to be able to graduate high school, and life's going to get a lot harder for him. But from what I see is going on here, you parents are pressuring him too much. Here's what you got to do. Just lay off for a little while. Just lay off. If he wants to fail, let him fail. If he wants to succeed, he'll go ahead and succeed. But if you keep putting pressure on him, he's not going to succeed at all. Bear that one in mind and go forth and see what happens. And sure enough, they took their pressure off reluctantly, and eventually my grades started to improve, and by junior and senior year, I almost had a straight A average. Things went a little bit better for me. The difference was, it was now my goal. Why am I in high school? Well, I kind of like these things. I kind of like to pursue this. Now it's 100% my goal. Before, they were telling me what to do. Didn't quite apply to me. Do this work, go to college, and fulfill our goals for you. Wasn't quite motivated. That intrinsic motivation is important to pursuing your goal. So back to the book, the boy buys his ticket, sells off the rest of his sheep, and takes a little ferry off to the Saharan desert, and he goes to a new area. And at that point in time, he enters hell. He enters hell itself. Everyone thinks that hell is fire, brimstone, suffering, all that. In my eyes, hell is nothing more than a place where everything you think you know no longer makes sense. Everything you think you know and are used to no longer makes sense. So the boy is used to, traveling around with a cask of wine. Now it's empty, he can't refill it because this new country he's in is very religious. They're not allowed to drink wine. So now he can't get that anymore. He wants to go and pray to his old Christian God, but he's in a new area where they worship a different one. He can't even do that anymore. He can't even have a conversation on the street because that whole area no longer speaks the same language. He's stuck in a place where everything he took for granted no longer makes sense. The only thing he has is his money. What can I do with money? He goes to a bar and says, I'm thirsty, I need a drink. Please pour me a glass of wine because I'm starving out here, I'm dying of thirst. Please give me something. And the guy says, I can't serve you wine because the religion says no. He already forgot. But I can serve you tea. Here you go. Gives him tea, starts drinking it, tastes bitter, he can't stand it. Can't stand it at all. So he moves on and just woes about himself. Why am I here? Why am I in the Sahara Desert? Why did I even come here? To pursue some dream that doesn't even make sense. Two people probably ripped me off, and this doesn't make any sense. But lo and behold, someone comes into the bar, looks just like him, and he actually speaks Spanish. And he says, thank the gods that you are here. I'm so happy to see you. You speak Spanish. Could you please help me? I'm trying to get to Egypt. He's like, of course I can help you. But if you're trying to get to Egypt, you're going to need 2 camels, one for you, one for me. Do you have the money for it? Oh, I sure do. He takes his money out and waves it. Here's my money. Please take my money and buy me 2 camels. Okay, I'll guide you along the way. The bartender gets a little mad. and he grabs the boy and starts speaking his language. He has no idea, and the kid who talked to him says, hey, back off. Hey, come on, let's go. He just wants your money. So he takes off with him, and he's rushing through the marketplace, and he's trying to keep up. And he catches a sword, this sword full of jewels, and he says, wow, if I get the treasure, I can afford that sword. Hey, ask this guy how much the sword is. And at that moment, the boy realized he made a fatal mistake. He didn't even have to look up. But then eventually he does. He looks up, and what does he see? The guy's gone. And where's his money? In the guy's hand. He just got robbed. He was talking to a thief the whole time. So he goes into a depression and says, dang, I just screwed up. Now I have no money. I'm in a foreign land. No one speaks my language. I can't do anything. Curse this land. Curse that king. Curse the gypsy. And curse anyone who's trying to find their personal legend. This is terrible. What am I going to do? We've all been there before, haven't we? Failed at something that we thought was going to go well. Gotten deceived. Been down in the dumps. We beat ourselves up. It's a terrible place to be, but the boy eventually says, well, let's just take an assessment of this. I hate everybody right now, but who's the true idiot here? Me, I'm the true idiot. What happened was I fell for the first person that spoke Spanish. There's thieves everywhere in the world. There's thieves in Spain where I live, but I'm able to see them because I'm used to them. Out here, I'm not used to anything, but the truth is, that guy was a thief. Who waves their money in a bar saying, yes, please take my money and buy my 2 camels? Here you go, total stranger. Who does that? Nobody does that. Fools do that. I was a fool. That bartender wasn't trying to take my money. He was warning me. He was saying, what are you doing? Put your money away. That's a thief. That's what he was trying to say. There's an international language that's trying to be spoken here. And it was hitting me, but I didn't receive it. I was being an idiot. There's thieves everywhere. And I got robbed because I'm the one who's a fool. So at that point, he realized he learned. There's a universal language that he has to start to learn. We all know an international language, don't we? A universal language. For me, it's mathematics. I know nothing about the world, but I see everything in numbers. That's why I teach accounting. I have a friend who doesn't know about the world either, but he sees everything in music. He walks down hallways through cities, and he hears everything as a musical beat. And unless he can do a musical beat, he can't interpret the world. That's how he sees it. Some people see it in words. People who love literature, they see it that way. But there's also an international, universal language of human communication. And he saw a piece of that right there. So the next morning he said, I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to go ahead and find something to eat. Find something to eat is my first goal. That's what I'm going to do. So he wakes up, opens a marketplace for somebody, gives him a piece of candy, goes up to the top of a hill and sees a crystal salesman. Crystal salesman's not doing so well, so he says, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll shine your crystals for you if you allow me to get something to eat. Guy says nothing, and he says, I'm just going to do it anyway. He takes his pouch out and starts shining the crystals, puts them back on display. Takes the next one, shines it up, puts it on display. And eventually customers start coming in, and they want to buy the crystals. The guy makes 2 or 3 sales, and he asks him, okay, so are you going to feed me or what? And he's like, yeah, of course I'll feed you. You got me 3 new customers. Thanks a lot for getting me these 3 new customers. Here, have a meal. So eventually he keeps on shining crystals, and he gets more customers to come in. And the guy asks him, so what are you trying to do, young man? What are you trying to do? I'm trying to earn enough money to go to Egypt. And the guy laughs. You can shine crystals for me for 2 decades. You'll never have enough to get to Egypt. So the boy has to start thinking outside the box. What if we put a crystal display outside? That'll attract more customers. And sure enough, more customers come in. Okay, let's shine more crystals, but now let's put tea inside of them. This shop sits on the top of a hill. When people reach the top, they're thirsty. Let's put tea in these crystals and people will buy more. Sure enough, that worked. And eventually the business started booming and the boy had more than enough money to go back to Egypt. Ever been there before? Ever been successful at something, but it wasn't quite your goal? What is the boy's goal? To go to Egypt. But right now, he's making a killing selling crystal, isn't he? We've been there before. In fact, before I taught, I used to work at Caterpillar. Fantastic job. Data analysis, numbers everywhere, all the time. That's all I did, analysis, made money for the company. What's my goal? Earn us 6% more revenue. Got it. Went ahead and did my analysis. Hey, we earned 7% more. Good for you. What's my goal this year? Okay, now that you made 7, earn 9. All right, great. Let's earn 9%. Hey, I got you 10. What's my goal? Make 12%. It just kept on going and going and going. The money was coming in, but eventually this got a little boring. I can't do this anymore. What's my personal legend? It's something similar to this, but it's not quite this. So my success clouded my view of my personal vision. What I truly liked to do was teach people how to do things. So eventually I realized, Caterpillar's cool, but it's not quite for me. Things aren't going my way. It's enjoyable, the money's good, but it's not quite what I need. So I quit and eventually came over here. That's how my personal legend began with the whole teaching scenario. The boy had the same thing happen to him. Crystal salesman, went forward. It worked, but his goal was to go to Egypt. He quit and eventually went on to the desert, back to a new version of that hell, but now he spoke the international language. The desert was ruthless for the boy, completely ruthless. But eventually some things happen here, some things happen there, and he finally meets the alchemist. Finally meets him. And the alchemist, like I said, alchemy is a dead science. It no longer works. It's something that we don't use anymore. But the alchemist was able to turn that lead into gold. Does that still exist today? Can we still use alchemy today? At face value, the answer is no. We know that chemistry has disproven alchemy. We know that gold is one pure element. It can't be changed. It can't be manipulated or anything like that. But I still believe that there's some magic in the world and there are still alchemists in the world. You'll find them. I actually found one about a year ago when I took a trip to Colorado. A guy was shining shoes on the street. That's what he was doing, shining shoes. And my buddy said, you know what, I'm feeling bored. Let me go ahead and get my shoes shined. And the whole experience took 20 minutes, but it was the most entertaining experience of my life. Well, not of my life, but pretty entertaining. Pretty entertaining, I must say. And so to demonstrate, I'm going to show you a little bit of what he did. These shoes I got from a thrift store. Old pair of shoes, look kind of, beaten down. Laces are all tore up. Look like they've been worn for quite a bit, haven't they? Symbolically, I feel like these shoes are my students. Worn down, disheveled, unkempt, but there's still hope in them. There's still hope. And all it needs is a little bit of love and care. That being said, I'm going to practice alchemy on these shoes. The guy in Colorado, his name was Claude Andrew Thompson. And he said he's been given 3 names. And he said that the name of 3 kings. Claude, he said, was the first king of France. Andrew was the second king. And Thompson, that's just his short name, but it's the name of a great philosopher. And he said his mission, his sole mission on this earth, was to teach man about a coming plague. I'll shine one so you see the difference. He said he's here to teach man about a coming plague. And he said we're not going to see it coming because we've been taught a great lie. He asked my friend, what is it that you're wearing on your feet? Like a pair of shoes. Okay, what's it made of? Leather. Okay, yeah, leather. What is leather? Well, isn't it cow skin? He's like, yeah, that's what they want you to believe. But the truth is, that's not flesh. He said, flesh belongs to God. And man keeps telling you that it's cow flesh. But the thing is, flesh, when we're dead, returns back to the earth. It belongs to God. What this shoe is actually made of is polyurethane, chemicals. And it surrounds your foot. And what happens is, when it surrounds your feet, they start to sweat. When you surround your feet in chemicals, they don't do what they're supposed to do. Back in the day, we used to walk around with our feet in sandals or barefoot, and our feet could breathe. But now that they're surrounded by chemicals, they sweat now. They don't get the air they need. They can't get cleaned up. And that's going to cause this great plague to come and destroy man. He said man calls it E. coli, but he said it's just God's disposal system. So it's kind of scary. So how do we prevent this plague? And he says, well, I'm helping you right now. I'm doing to your shoes something that it needs. I'm giving it knowledge, I'm giving it wisdom, I'm giving it art, and I'm giving it pride. That's all you need for your feet. And as long as you're paying attention to your feet, eventually your feet will be taken care of. He said, on a hot day, just take your shoes off and just let them air out. But if you take pride in your feet and your shoes, you'll start to pay attention to them more and take better care of your feet. And God's disposal system will still do its thing, but it won't affect you anymore. Claude Andrew Thompson was his name. And it was kind of nice, too. He provided a little bit of entertainment for us. Every person that stopped by or walked by in the street, he'd comment on their shoes. If they were good-looking shoes, he'd say, yeah, not bad, not bad. If they were bad, he'd say, come see me, you're next. Come see me, you're next. Hollering like that. He was a marketing genius. He was getting people to come get their shoes shined as he was shining these ones. I mean, the guy, he was on a mission, but he also needed to make money too. And eventually, my buddy's shoes came out, and they started looking really good. Sort of like these ones right here. But this is how I view my students. They come to the classroom hungry for knowledge, not realizing that beneath that exterior, they've got potential. They've got great potential. But all they need is a little bit of a push. In the book, when the boy meets the alchemist, he's faced with a task that he knows he cannot beat. I won't tell you what he has to do because I won't spoil the ending. But the alchemist tells him that you have to realize your full potential. And he does it in a way that's kind of scary, like a life or death situation. In my classroom, it's the same way. I throw homework at people. I throw lessons at people. People get confused. That's what's supposed to happen. And eventually they realize, wow, I didn't realize I could do that. I've just reached my potential, at least a little bit closer to it. And when they come out of the classroom, they realize, wow, I have room to shine. I have room to look good. I can do anything I put my mind to. And they'll realize that they're better off than they were when they first entered my classroom. Now, this old pair of shoes looks almost like new again. And that's what we do as alchemists here. Symbolically, students, how many students are in here? 3? Isn't ICC kind of like hell? You've been thrown into a place where nothing makes sense anymore? High school probably worked, but over here, not so much. It's challenging. You've got tests, you've got classes, you've got to be at certain places at certain times, you've got to balance workout. Not quite working so well. But look towards the alchemists. We're on your side. Who are the alchemists? The teachers. You can always find us. You can always find an alchemist in the real world too. Charismatic, enigmatic, and just a little bit crazy. But we're here to help you out. Don't be afraid to ask us for help. That's all I have for you. 3 lessons. Persistence through failure. Persistence through success. Find your alchemists. We will help you out, and we're hoping to do so as well. Thanks for coming to my presentation. Hope it was enjoyable for you too.